Hari Om. Today we are on 7th mantra of chapter 3 of section 1. The mantra reads Brahatcha Tat Divyam Achintya Rupam Sukshmatcha Sat Sukshmataram Vibhati Durat Sudure Tadihandige Cha Pashyatvihaeva Nihitam Guhayam. The word meaning or literal meaning is that shines as vast, heavenly, of unthinkable form, subtler than the subtlest, much farther than the distant, near, also here, and seen fixed in the cavity of the heart of the intelligent. This is the meaning as per the Shankara Bhashya. Now we have to slightly get into the explanation of this. No doubt, the seeker or the disciple will surely and certainly in due course will himself experience that unexplainable joy shortly. Don't take much time, he's already on the path. Yet, the master, who is himself a realized soul, reveling in permanent peace, cannot resist his sattvic temptation to come down and elaborately explain to the disciple by his finite instruments of expression of the infinite glory in which he is reveling. The student also has very finite instruments of perception. The teacher also has very finite equipments of expression. The teacher is reveling in the unexplainable. The student is on the right path for the self-discovery. This is the scene. You see, when let's say children of an elementary class, say third standard, second standard, is taken out to a big city, let's say from a God-forsaken village somewhere near Manandavadi somewhere, he is taken to a city, Bombay. The children are taken for a visit. For what? To see an exhibition, or a museum, or a zoo, whatever. They are taken to a big city to visit. No doubt, all the students will very soon gather their own experience from that show, isn't it? All of them will see that museum. All of them will see that zoo. They are being taken inside through the right path by the master. They will soon gather that experience. Yet, the teacher in her love for the kids would give them, just before entering into that museum or zoo or exhibition or whatever it is, the teacher gives the students a brief description of what they would shortly experience. As you enter, you will find a board, read that, and on the right side there will be a big statue, etc., etc. Some explanations will be given, theoretical explanations. For what? To guide the students and to make the students aware and alert of how the inside will be. This is natural. In the same way, the sadhak is on the right path of truthfulness and will certainly ere long experience for himself the reality. Yet, the teacher is giving him certain pointers which may reinforce the knowledge of the student that he has acquired about the Brahman already. The teacher knows and the students also knows that the Brahman is to be experienced but not experimented or explained. Still, this is an inescapable exercise in spirituality. So the Guru explains to the disciple what Brahman is by mere adjectives, as that is the best that one can do, and the disciple also takes them in the right spirit and does not ever for a moment mistake the description to be the real reality. He never shakes his head and, oh, I see, that is reality, is it? No. He knows fully well that this is only an indication to what reality is. Now the descriptions used here are, carefully, Brahat, number 1. Number 2, Divyam. Number 3, Achintya Rupam. Number 4, subtler than the subtlest. And number 5, far yet so near. And number 6, firmly seated in the cave of the heart of the seeker. These are the 6 pointers being given to them. All these descriptions of the Brahman were earlier discussed in this text, in this very talk. And these are again indicated here as a revision before the face-to-face interview or a viva with the reality. Written test is over. The student has qualified. Now he is facing the final test, final interview with the master or with the reality. The vastest or the greatest object that human mind can conceive of is the space. I am explaining the word Brahat first. So space is the vastest or the greatest concept that the mind can ever think of. Brahman being all-pervading, it pervades even space, but nothing pervades it. Therefore it is called Brahat. Next pointer is Divyam, divine. The reality or the substratum sustains or illumines the entire panorama of changing plurality, and hence it is divine. It is not something pedestrian. It is such a divine thing that because of its light, all the light is effulging, and hence it is Divyam. The next pointer is Achintya Rupam. Inconceivable or unknowable to the finite instruments of perception. Achintya Rupam, a form which can never be thought of. But yet I have to express it in some way through my limited perception. And I cannot do it myself. I cannot speak about it because the very speech that I am speaking is His grace. A telescope can show the viewer objects far away from it. No matter how far it is, it can show. Yet, it cannot showcase the very viewer who is behind the telescope. The finite and the limited intellect cannot ever employ its faculty of thinking on the very thinker behind the intellect. In fact, it is nothing but a mass of light. The reality is nothing but a mass of light without the physical properties and known qualities of a light. I know it is confusing. I am saying it is a form of light to make you understand what that is, effulgence is, but at the same time, it should not be misconstrued as the light of a tube light, the light of a halogen lamp. No. That is why I said a light without the physical properties and known qualities of light. It is that light which lights the light. If you are confused, I have succeeded. So therefore it is Achinte Rupam. The next adjective is subtler than the subtlest. This has already been explained in earlier classes so elaborately. Subtlety is measured by pervasiveness. Ice block, water, vapor, clouds, etc. So that is subtler than the subtlest. That has been explained already, please recollect. The next adjective is farther than the farthest and nearer. Yet very near. It is farther than the farthest, yet it is very near. What a contradiction. You are there, you are also here. This confusion is natural. Especially to an uninitiated mind, this may appear to be a paradox. How can there be anything in the world located at one and the same period of time, at once at a farthest point and at the nearest point? This doubt will come even to a seeker. That is why in Upanishadic discussions, the teacher asks the Guru, have you understood? In Kenopanishad. You know what the disciple said? Naham manye suvededi nona vededi vedacha. Naham manye suvededi. I don't think I have understood. Suvededi vedacha. But I think I have understood. I don't think I have understood, sir. Have you not understood? No, I think I have understood. What is confusion? So this is absolutely inevitable. These are the hard ways to spirituality. But on a deeper contemplation, you will find that this is not contradicting at all. It is a matter of limitation and it is not a matter of contradiction. The limitation of the finite objects of expression, equipments of expression, to explain something which cannot be explained. the hallucinations of plurality cognized and experienced by the individual, when he looks out through the window of his mind and intellect, can be removed only when it is explained away in the language of paradox. There is no other way by which I can forcibly put it into his mind. I must give him a set of opposites. Then only he will grasp. So have you understood? Yes. Have you understood? No. This is a typical way of teaching of Upanishads. And there is no contradiction here at all. The Shruti is trying her best to find an appropriate expression to convey the unfathomable, the vast, the all-pervading. Naturally, therefore, she has to say that Brahman is a reality and that is a circle whose center is everywhere. What else can he say? It is at every point within and without us. Within, in our very cave of the heart. Without, at the farthest point, as much as we can conceive. Remember, horizon is farther than vision. You look at the sea, you find a horizon. And give an estimate, what is the distance from you and the horizon? Roughly you calculate and say it is about 10 nautical miles or 20 nautical miles between the shore where you are standing and the horizon that you are seeing is about 20 nautical miles. Take a ship and go 20 nautical miles. Watch from there. You will find horizon another 20 nautical miles away. It is farther than vision. So how far your imagination can go, at that farthest point is also present. It is also present in your heart. Is this a contradiction or a conviction? Let us be fair to our rishis. So the sum and substance of this mantra is that the self sustains all beings and yet it is not caught up in any of them. They are in me and I am not in them, declares the reality, if at all it can declare. The different names and forms of the waves are in the ocean. But the vast ocean is not in the tiny wave, though the ocean is the cause for the existence of the waves. The world conveying their sense objects through the window of sense organs of perception. Careful. The world is presenting to us the sense objects through what? Through the window of our sense organs of perception. That creates a mental vibration which are illumined by the consciousness or awareness residing in all beings. Kshetrajñam chabhimam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. As the knower of the field, as I am residing in your heart, as the knower of the field, I am residing in the heart of everyone. Kshetrajñam cha abhimam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata. In all fields, I am the Kshetrajña, I am the awarer, I am the consciousness. So if that awareness was not there in the cave of your heart, the external world must necessarily fail in giving mind-intellect equipment the concept of its life as a series of unbroken experiences. It is because this ultimate energy, the light, the effulgence, is sitting inside and beaming it out through various sense organs, like in a multi-holed pot. Nana Chidra Ghadodarastida Mahadiva Prabhavasuram. If that were not there, then the individual would have been denied of his total unbroken experience in life. The idea is so beautifully conveyed in the ninth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Maya tadamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina malstani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavastita. All this world is pervaded by me. Maya tadamidam sarvam. In my unmanifest aspect, all beings exist in me and I do not dwell in them. Malstani sarvabhutani. I exist in all. Na chaham tveshavastita. I don't dwell in them. It therefore means that the perishable dwell in the unperishable. Extend that logic, please. The perishable dwell in the unperishable. The Prakriti dwell in the Purusha. The effect dwells in the cause. Hence, it is all pervading. And all pervading must at once be here and there and everywhere. Far, distance, these are all your conceptions. It has no conception. It cannot move anywhere because it is filled with everywhere. I can move to a place where I am not. And then I will say it is 10 kilometers away from me. But if I am there also, I pervade in my whole body. In the same way, the reality pervades the entire cosmos, the entire world of creations and beings, and therefore it is here, there, everywhere. I think we should stop with this for today, and let's examine tomorrow what further directions we have from the Rishi. Hari Om.